Okay, well, hey, welcome everybody to another Tech Tip Tuesday. Here we are in the middle of February already. It's a short month, but I'm sure everybody enjoyed their Valentine's Day yesterday. It's a season or a month of love. I think it should be a year of love or a lifetime of love, but hey, I love the Valentine's Day. So, and of course, Healy's got some awesome specials going on for that particular occasion. So welcome again. This is the Tech Tip Tuesday call. If you guys are first timers here, awesome. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. If you've been here a while, then you know how it works. But let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be doing. This is a chat-based forum in which we will take your questions in the chat. And then my amazing co-host, Jake Barron from operations, they're live in Orlando. And we have a customer service rep in the background. Michael tonight is joining us from customer service. We will do our very best to unpack your question and find solutions. I think we always magically come up with some kind of way of helping somebody out. So I'm super excited about that. We're going to be talking about anything to do with the technical stuff when it comes around the blue dot, aka the HealAdvisor Analysis app, or the pink dot, aka the Healy app, as well as some of the functions, maybe connections, struggles you might be having. So we unpack that kind of stuff. Sometimes we talk about other things, but we really don't want to dive into back office things or anything to do with the business. We also are not able to treat, diagnose, prevent, or talk about any diseases. Okay, so that's not what we're doing here. We won't also be able to talk about recommended programs for certain conditions. All right, so just know that's not where we're working. But with everything else, we're kind of open in the technical side. So hopefully that makes sense to y'all. If you're ready to get started, I'm ready. Jake, how about you?
Let's get started.
Okay, here we go. On your mark, get set,
and go.
Light up the chat.
Okay, first question I have on my chat is a good one. So, what is the function of the progress circle turning black for 8 seconds, then white for 12 seconds? So, as far as my understanding, it's not a specific 8 seconds, 12 seconds. What I think is probably going on here is that the frequency changes every 10 seconds or so, and that certain frequencies are easier for the body to absorb than others. So if it's turning black for those 10 seconds, 8 seconds, whatever you want to call it, it's most likely a lower frequency, and then it switches to a higher frequency. At that point, it turns white because those are easier to enter the body. Ken, does that...
Yeah. So if you take a look at your app, and when you're watching your app, the app is very dynamic. It's interactive. It's constantly checking your body and then adjusting its inputs and then finding what's exactly needed by your body. And that happens to the tune of about every 8 to 10 seconds. Literally, you can watch it and you'll see click, 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 click. It's going to change from frequency to frequency to frequency. And as Jake mentioned, when it changes from a frequency that is lower, and when I say lower, anything below about 400 hertz. So 400 hertz is kind of that, and again, it depends on the body, the individual, but around 400 hertz and below, those are frequencies closer to what we call density. What's density? That's matter, the physical form of the body. Okay. So the lower the frequency, the more push or amplitude it may need to get that frequency through the body. And when we're dealing with amplitude, we're moving these frequencies through the body on a carrier wave called microcurrent. Microcurrent is like an electron flow that's going through your body, but it's pulsating at the frequency that the program is asking it to do so. All right, to work with your body, whatever the task of the program is. So lower frequencies take more punch. And so you could see, because it's taking more energy to get through the body and you've got the setting really low on the intensity, you could see that line go black because of it needs to be boosted up a little bit. What I do is I will typically watch the program. I will take note of when it turns black, and I'll bump the intensity up a little bit till it turns white. Now there's a bit of a delay. There's about a 3-second delay between when you actually make an adjustment on the app and the feedback loop from your body to tell that white or black indicator that you have conduction or not. So it's about a 3-second delay. So make an adjustment, wait a few seconds and see if it goes to white. If it doesn't, make an adjustment, wait a few seconds, see if it goes to white. The goal is to keep it in the white spectrum. There's also, if you've cranked that intensity way up, right now, for instance, it's only going to last 8 seconds. So if you have to wait 3 seconds for it to show up and you're at the latter part of that frequency's timeline, it's going to switch frequencies before the actual amplitude adjustment takes place. So you're going to need to follow along per se with what the frequencies being presented or instituted into the body and your adjustments on the intensity. So you need to watch your program, watch the frequency at the top of the screen. Again, above 500 Hertz may take less power, below 500 Hertz may take a little bit more. So it takes a little to get used to, especially when you're new. You know, conductivity is also a factor of how well hydrated the skin is where the wristbands are attached, you know, so moistening the wrists, putting the wristbands on, using conductive gel, then putting the wristbands on, or if you're using contact sticky pads, again, making sure that the skin is in good shape. You know, I guess that's an easy way to say it. And then your body's personal hydration. That's a key. Folks, you should be drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water per day. That helps the body remain hydrated. If it's low hydration, then it's really tough for the current flow to get through the body. So keeping these things up, it's our job too to help the system operate. So hopefully that helps out.
No, that's great. So right off the bat, one of these questions where I actually learned that little trick there of why it changes, you know, it might be a lower frequency, it's black, it switches to white, just from doing these calls for the last 6 months or whatever with Ken and the whole group. And it's one of those things that once you understand what's going on and you're watching your pink dot app, and it's very interesting to see like, oh, I need to adjust it a little bit higher so it stays white the whole time. And it's a great tip that everyone should know.
Yeah, it is a bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you pretty much predict what's going on.
Yeah.
Another question here says pink app keeps asking for the QR code. Okay, and so the QR code, that's not unusual. If you establish the pink dot app or the Healy app on one smart device, and you have one Healy device that you operate exclusively on that one app, right? Then typically it doesn't continue to ask you for the QR code. But if it does, then it's possible that it hasn't retained the last device it was connected to, and that's okay. If you have to connect to it via the QR code, I'm sorry, then that's a good thing because now it's linked to the exact device. I have 5 Healys and I have 4 different devices that I operate them from. And so I can almost tell when it's going to ask me for my QR code because I've switched devices, smart devices, or I've switched Healy devices, and it's going to ask me. That's not unusual. Okay. Anything you want to add there, Jake?
No, just as you mentioned, and also, you know, some people with newer iPhones, you may find have a little bit of a difficulty scanning the actual QR code when you're setting up. But if that happens, don't get frustrated. You can just type it in manually. Takes, you know, a couple seconds longer, but typically once you enter that QR code and it's set up on your smart device, you're not going to have to do it again unless you do a hard reset or uninstall, reinstall sort of a thing. So it's not something that you should have to do every time you use it on your device.
Yeah, they tend to remember the last serial number that the app was connected to. So so that's not unusual.
Yeah.
So let's see. Danielle's asking about which side should I wear the bracelet electrodes? Which sides should they be worn on? So if we're talking about the wristband bracelets, I'm assuming the side you're talking about is which side is the snap connected to, right? Top, bottom, inside, outside. It's mostly, it doesn't matter, honestly, electronically or by delivery, any of that, it doesn't matter. The wristband is conductive in its full circumference around the wrist. It's just the placement of the snap is going to be for essentially your convenience. So in other words, I put mine on the inside only because it tends to be less, I get it. I knock it off less often, I guess you might say, when I'm moving around, you may not be able to tell, I move my hands a lot, but so when I'm active, I reach for something, and if the snap is on top, I can knock off the wire, right, when I bump it. But it's all based on what you feel comfortable with and what's convenient for you. So it works functionality wise, it's the same. Okay.
Sometimes I wear them the opposite of, depending on what clothing I'm wearing, what I'm doing, where my hands are, if I'm sitting down, standing up. So no real issue there.
And one of the tips I do, so I run, like, you can't see any of the wires. You can't even hardly see my Healy on me at all, right? I've got a lanyard around my neck. The Healy is hanging from my neck, and the wires go up through my sleeve and down to the wristband. Why? Because I'm active. I'm moving around, and those, I don't want those to get caught on stuff. So it just makes it more convenient for me. And it's kind of like getting dressed. The activation energy it takes to put something on later in the day, like you may just skip it because it's like, oh, I got to put the wristbands on. I got to do that. It's just part of getting dressed for me. I mean, it really is.
Oh. Yeah, Ken, you underneath the sport coat, open one side, 3 Healys, other side, 3 Healys, boom.
That's right. We're just Healy'd up. Right on.
Let's see. Is it a personal pattern or I think this was related to one of the earlier questions that we already answered there. Okay. When I try to run the blue dot, I get the message that no device is available. What would you suggest? I have a professional and several resonances. So it sounds like the Bluetooth is not finding the device, right? I don't, seems to be the only potential issue there.
Yeah. So if it says no devices available, so the first step, there's a very distinct sequence in terms of connecting your Healy to your app, because there's a handshake process that needs to happen in the proper order. Healy has a Bluetooth interactive handshake that is unique to Healy. It's unlike many other Bluetooth devices in the way it connects to your smart device, because it's a medical device. So we really don't want it to be like interfered with or hacked from other stuff. So the way it needs to work is that you've got to make sure, first of all the other apps are shut off in the background. Okay. So hard close all the apps on your smart device. And I know you may be tempted to keep your email app open or your text app open because you don't want to miss anything, right? Sorry, be present with your Healy. Okay. Just shut it down, give it a break, right? Hard close. And there's a difference between hard closing and just simply swiping to the next app. I want you to know how to do that on your own smart device. Okay. If you have an Android, there is a YouTube video out there on how to hard close it. If it's an iOS or iPhone, there's a YouTube video out there. I'm not going to cover it here. So go look at how do you hard close an app, and then make sure they're all hard closed in the background. Okay. That's step 1. Step 2, turn the Healy on. Okay. That's really important. The Healy needs to be on first before opening the app. Why? Because Healy then starts to, once you turn it on, it starts to send out a seek type of signal, And when you open the app is the one that picks up that seek signal, and then it sends a signal back to the Healy to engage the Bluetooth. right? It's a two-way handshake. Then you'll notice that the Healy will be found. All right. So Healy on first, app on second. Who's on third? I don't know. We're not talking about that. Okay. So next is that you've got the blue dot open, right? Healy's on, blue dot's open. And then it's gonna ask you some questions, right? You move through the sequence. If you still can't get it to engage. Now, when you first open the blue dot, it doesn't even need the Healy. So you can actually go in there and do some stuff before you start to do a scan, and it doesn't need the Healy. But the moment you decide you're going to do a scan, then it's going to try to connect to the Healy. And if it hasn't connected yet, it's going to say perhaps no Healy found. So there's at the top of that screen, you can click on search for Healy. Okay, making sure again the Healy's still on, search for Healy, and it's going to start doing that handshaking, and it should then pull in any serial number of a Healy that's on within the proximity. If you have 2 or 3 Healys on, it's going to pull them all in. I would suggest you only have one on at a time. I have lots of Healys, so sometimes that happens to me. So anyway, you find the Healy that you want to engage, click on the little, at the far left, there's a little eye. Click on that and it starts to seek and it finds it, and you'll see the Bluetooth signal comes on. Right now you're connected and you can do the work you want to do. Okay. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add there, Jake?
No, just as you mentioned earlier, the part where you actually connect to the device had changed a few months ago with one of the updates to the Analyze app. Because before, when you first opened it, you would connect, but now you can get into your client, add a new client, edit that kind of information without having to connect to the Healy device, since it's not required in order to, the connection to the Healy is not required in order to access that data. So
yeah. Elisa says that I sometimes lick the inside of my thumbs. I like it. Like a boxer. No,
yeah.
no. So again, what we're doing here, we want to make sure that moisture between the wristband and the skin is actually present. You can actually even put the wristbands on a little early, and your body will naturally start to perspire under that, because the wristbands are not breathable. Okay, so when you put anything on your body that doesn't allow breath or air or flow through, it starts to sweat. Moisture builds up under it, and your own sweat is actually your best conductive material, right? Or your own saliva. That works really good too. My thumbs don't taste so good though. All right.
All right. Okay, there's another question about the QR code. Are they working on the QR code scanning? Yeah, I mean, it is an issue that's been reported, and we are working on a way to a workaround or an update to the app on that. I don't have any estimate on when that might be available, but it is under development. So
yeah, the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13, the latter part of our iPhone 12 and all of the iPhone 13s. Actually, no, I think the latter iPhone 13s are okay. Somewhere in there's a split, but yeah, they have an issue with reading the QR code, something to do with the camera and the software interface and reading the codes on Healy. I mean, your cameras will read all kinds of other QR codes. It's just something to do with the Healy QR code that it's not syncing, and IT's working on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Got a question from Kathy. When running a resonance or analysis, are there programs which should only be run with the cords, not spending time on the resonance after it brings specific programs up, such as, I guess we run all programs. I believe someone mentioned at one point not to run programs in vitalization on the resonance after finding out which you need most. Are there others? So I have not actually heard that before. Ken, have you heard anything specifically related to not running specific programs?
No. So the resonance, when we're running the resonance, the purpose of the blue dot, AKA the resonance program, is for analysis. And you can choose whatever database you wish. And in this case, she's talking about all Healy programs. That's essentially a category of all the Healy microcurrent programs. Okay, so you're doing an analysis on that database, which means all Healy microcurrent programs, everything that's in the pink dot. Okay, now when you do that analysis, it reveals the top 5 pages, the entire page, okay, not just one program, but the entire page in which the need for your body's alignment resides. Okay. So if it's gonna reveal 5 top pages and give you a percentage, in other words, a relevancy in priority order, 1 through 5. And if you go to the Blue Dot app and you run that entire gamut of programs or frequencies, that's a lot. Okay. What do I mean by a lot? Well, okay, first of all, it's 5 whole pages. There's up to 12 programs per page. You got me so far? Do the math. There's up to 60 programs so far. Now, each program, understand, has an arsenal of 300 or 400 frequencies, right, to choose from to actually align you within that protocol. Now, do the math again. That's a lot of information going to your bioenergetic field. There's nothing wrong with that, but you're going to want to make sure that you're running that in very small increments, because that's a lot of information being put into your information field, right? Into your bioenergetic field. So there's a process of drilling that down page by page by page to get it to the top 5 programs on each page, right? We've talked about that in the past. I like to call it creating the recipe, but the simplicity of that is just once you've revealed the pages, the 5 pages, then you go back and do another scan, just using each one of those pages individually as the database, right? So where it says select a database, you pick the first page. All right. Now it's going to take that page and analyze your information field and pick the top 5 programs on that page. You follow me? You do that page after page after page after page after page. Now you've got lists in proper order from number 1 all the way down to the 5th program called the recipe. And you can essentially run those in priority order if you like. Again, when you're running more than one program, right, per session, you may want to limit the amount of time. Okay. So in other words, small increments multiple times through your day. That's the idea. So your body is not so much overwhelmed. You're the best measuring stick for the results. So pay attention. If you're running a whole bunch of frequencies and all of a sudden at the end of the day, you feel just exhausted and angry and just spent, you might want to back it off. Right. All right. And then please don't forget your self-care protocols between these program applications. So if you're doing, say, 1 minute and 20 seconds of all Healy programs, and you're doing it, say, 5 times a day, please be sure to do your self-care protocols between. What's self-care protocols? Hydration. Remember I said half your body weight in ounces of water every day? Hydration. Keep that up all day. What else is between there? Grounding. Practice grounding, because you need to neutralize some of the energies that's going on in the body. And the earth is the best way to do that. If you guys are understand, just look up grounding. There's lots of ways to do it, from being out in the earth to actually things that you can plug in within your home, even meditation, grounding meditations. There's a lot of things to do out there. All right. Number 3, movement. Engage your lymphatic system. Long, full range movements, yoga, Pilates, dance, stretching, whatever it takes, move the body. Breathing. Number 4, breathing. Actually, that's higher on the list, but breathing, full, complete breaths, right? In, hold, out, hold. Spend a good few minutes on good full breaths, right? And my last one that I always tell everybody is to fall in love with life. Shift that mindset, right? If you're angry, if you're upset, if you're frustrated, if you're just downright irritated, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not getting in. So work with that inner self and find peace. Okay.
Excellent. Excellent as always there. We'll go to a simple question here. So for the Advisor and Analyze app, The master key is the master key attached to the account or to individual Healy devices? So someone has multiple devices, no matter how many devices you have, whether it's 1, 5, 10, you're gonna have one master key assigned to your account. So there's only one, very, very simple. If you want to use those devices on other smart devices, you're just going to be importing that same master key onto those other smart devices to use your additional Healys. And if you want to loan out, if you have additional Healys, multiple Healys, and want to loan them out to people, and obviously don't want to share the data that might be in your master key, just put them in demo mode. We've done some trainings on that over the last few weeks. Some of those recordings are available on our YouTube page, HealyAmericas.com. Easy to find those. But yes, one per account. And if you want to share them, just put it in demo mode.
I think I get this question daily. I seriously do. So Danielle, you're not the only one. I get this daily, every single day. And it's kind of one of those things like, okay, how do I wrap my head around this? It's like, so you have a Healy account. Anybody who has purchased a resonance or above, when you set up that resonance for the very first time, it generates a master key. Okay. And it's assigned to your account, not that Healy, your account. So now your account essentially has a very cool encrypted key, which is, let's call it a file, but it's a file that now allows your Healy resonance to access a cloud account which is assigned to you. So this is a 4096-bit encrypted file. It's just a file. It's a JSON file. That's the extension on it, but it's just a file. And the first numbers of that JSON file essentially are a date code. So, I mean, if you were to save that master key every day for a week, the .json is the same extension, but the number prior to that will be different each time. But the contents, the 4096 bits, are exactly the same. You haven't created a new master key. You just created a new one for that moment. and the timestamp is assigned to it, right? So, and it's the same master key that we'll use to activate the Healy you just got, or the 800 other ones you buy down the road on your account. It's the same. You don't need another one. Okay.
We have a follow-up to the question earlier about scanning for devices in the Analyze app. So a little bit more detailed. So they were trying to connect two Healys on two devices. So I'm assuming one Healy on one device, one Healy on the other device. They went to connect the older one, but it only showed the serial number of the newer one, although that one wasn't flashing green. So the one they were trying to connect was flashing green, but it pulled up the one that wasn't flashing green. So how do I then scan each one separately, specifically so as to utilize two? So I feel like this was like a brain teaser here or something.
Yeah, this is a fun one. So our Healys, when the green light is not flash, so let's say I just now turn my Healy on. Okay, turn this guy on, and the green light begins to flash. All right. So it's flashing, sitting there doing this little flashy thing. Now I go ahead and turn this button, push it again. I turn it off. Now this Healy is sitting here in dormant mode. It's the green light's not flashing, but remember I told you about that Bluetooth seek code? It's still on. It's on for a good 45 seconds, right? And when you turn on an app that's seeking that code, it will find it, even though the green light's not flashing. And when it finds it, it pulls that serial number in. And when you choose the little connect icon on the far right, then it sends the signal and it kicks it back on. You'll see the Bluetooth light come on, right? And even, it's funny how that works. Even though this is only characteristic of the blue dot app, by the way. This has nothing to do with the pink dot, because it doesn't work that way with the pink dot. All right. Because the microcurrent system and the way it operates, it doesn't require all of this authentication. It's not nearly as encrypted. It still is in terms of the way the Bluetooth signal interfaces, but the other stuff in respect to the master key and the interface with your account, all that kind of stuff is a little bit different on the Blue Dot. So it's complex. When you're trying to get two Healys, two separate smart devices to interface and operate in the same room, you're going to have problems. Okay. I'm just telling you, my suggestion is to just link one smart device and one Healy at a time, and then set them aside and don't do anything with that for a while. I mean, if you're going to turn it off, once it's linked to that smart device, it's pretty much linked. You can turn it off and let it set aside. When you go and do a second smart device and a second Healy, you know, my recommendation is wait a bit of time, because if you're not familiar with this sleep mode and things that they do, it's going to drive you nuts. Okay. I mean, if you have two Healys that are both turned on at the same time and you see the green lights flashing and you go into the Blue Dot app and you seek a new Healy, in other words, there's a function in there that says, what's it say? It says, connect to Healy. You click on that, it's going to find both those and bring that serial number, both those serial numbers into the Blue Dot. And then you can choose one or the other. But when you have one in dormant mode, it's going to be kind of a, I don't know, kind of a free for all as to which one it actually pulls in. I've had people have to take one of their Healys and take them to the other end of the house so that it doesn't get picked up during some of these scans. So I just don't recommend, especially when you're new, trying to do multiple smart devices, multiple Healys at the same time, unless you know a lot of intricate interfaces, what I'm talking about right now. I think you'll wind up being frustrated. Okay. I don't know that I mean, I guess I would be wondering why you're trying to do two at the same time. You know, that's another question.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next one here. So question, Michael already answered it. Michael is all over the chat today. So thank you, Michael, for your excellent help. But what is the return policy? 14 days or 30 days? So they've seen both. And yeah, certain markets around the world have different rules and regulations. So we have a hub in India, we have a hub in Asia Pacific, we have a hub in Europe. So there are some different rules, but in the US, the return policy is 14 days from the date that you receive your order. So not from when you place the order, but from when you actually have it physically in your hand. So 2 full weeks. But keep in mind, it's 2 weeks to return for the full refund. But you know, if something goes wrong after 2 weeks, we are here. We're committed to helping you get it up and running. If you have difficulties with any of the functions, anything like that, we have this call. Of course, we have a lot of resources available also in our Healy Academy. And then also, if anything goes wrong with your device, it's a full 2-year warranty on the device. So 14 days may sound short to some people, but we're here for you, and we'll make sure that you're up and running and working well. But
I love that. You know, I know that Michael's already addressed this question. There's a question about the thumbprint, you know, the icon on
this is a great one though. Yeah.
It's good. It's worth unpacking a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the icon on the screen and when you're running a resonance analysis, and you're seeing the icon on the screen, you've already chosen your database and you're getting ready to finally do the scan. And there's this thumbprint that pops up, or this image that looks like a fingerprint. And it's asking you to place your finger on the screen. I want you to understand there's 2 functions here. Number one is you're working with a smart device that has a touch screen. So that is a simplistic way of activating the function of the scan. It's just an on button, right? By placing the finger on the screen, that activates the actual function of starting the scan. But number 2, and I think this is a very important part that we don't want to dismiss. The second reason that you're putting your finger on the screen is that so you'll pay attention. You'll pay attention to the activity. The key is to be present. When you're doing a scan, please don't be thinking about your email or what's for dinner or the noise you just heard outside the house. Just be present because the system is trying to get a clear information path with your intention. And if your intention or your attention is everywhere, it's probably not going to be as accurate. Okay. And then you're going to say, well, that didn't work or whatever. That's really weird. That's not me. It's probably everything you were thinking about, which didn't feel like you because you're thinking about somebody else. Okay. So the point is putting your thumb on there brings your attention to the present moment. And that's necessary. Okay. Very necessary. When it comes to the aura scan and that little picture that shows placing the Healy in the right hand, again, being present with that scan. All right. Being in the moment. You can have it on your forehead. You can have it in your left hand, but the point is being present with that scan. Okay. So that's the reason. And, you know, Healy engineers things to try to make it goof proof. I mean, in the military, we used to call it idiot proof, but you know, it was that 5% of the people would just not look at the instructions and just be wandering off doing something else and wondering why the system wasn't working optimally. Well, it's because we need to be present and be part of the equation. Make sense? Okay.
For sure.
All right.
All right. Tom had a question here. Again, Michael sort of answered, but I've actually never heard this specifically. We've answered a ton of questions on these calls, but is there a reason not to charge your phone or the Healy while running a vibration or a scan? So I've heard people ask about charging the Healy, but not your phone. So
yeah,
not that I know of. And
so let me give you a little clarity. This is built as a class 2 medical device. Okay. So the way that it's engineered in all of the aspects also plays a part of the qualification for a medical device. In other words, a medical device that is used without supervision, okay, without a practitioner, has to have fail safes built in. In other words, you're not supposed to plug the device into a wall outlet, 120 volts in the US, up to 20 amps, which is more than enough to fry you. You're not supposed to have it plugged into the wall outlet. At the same time, you have wire electrodes connect to your body. Okay. So there is a potential path, very, very rare, but current flow from a wall outlet into the body when you have wires connected in that proximity. So it's designed to where you cannot plug in the wires and the charging cord at the same time. That's why it's designed in that way. Okay. So you can't run the pink dot while it's plugged in. Won't work. Now, with the resonance, different story. Because do you need the wires connected when you're running a resonance scan? No, you do not. So you can plug the Healy in to the wall and you can run a resonance scan. You can run vibrate mode. You can do all that with it plugged in and it will work just fine. Okay. So this is how you can run it for long periods of time and without the battery going dead. But you're not connected via wires to the interface or the bridge, the little hardware, to a 120 volt outlet. You're not connected directly. So this is why you can run it. Now the phone, as far as charging the phone, though, there's no limit. You can charge the phone, have it plugged in. There's nothing that's connecting the phone to you in physical form. Okay. No reason.
That's an interesting, because I remember when I first got my Healy device over a year ago, and I was like, why do these connection cable ports block the charging port? Like, that's not very convenient. But yeah, there's a reason for it. So, and that was a great explanation there.
Now, you know, because there's I mean, just think about it this way for a moment. I have seen static energy jump from one outlet to another outlet in a house during electrical storms. That's a lot of power. Let me tell you something. Take your fingers, put your little pinky between it, and then remove it. That's about a 1/4 inch space. It takes over 10,000 volts to jump a spark that big. Over 10,000 volts. Now, think about how much it takes to jump from one outlet across the room to another outlet. That's a lot of power. So anytime we have electrical circuits, wires connected from one of those outlets to our body and a bridge between the two, in a case of some sort of an anomaly, such as electrical storm, that energy can transfer through those wires into you. This is why it's not able to be done. Healy was looking out for us. Okay. All right.
All right. The question regarding the coil here. So it says, does the Healy device create a zero center gravity like a Tesla coil? So, there's a lot of the technology, we do mention Nikola Tesla in some of our things, and specifically on the coil. If you look at the coil flyer, there is a mention of was it the zero field?
It's called a zero vector field.
Zero
So
vector,
that's different. Zero gravity? No. Zero vector field means, and it means that what you've created a way of nullifying any frequency interference. So basically it holds off frequency interference. So it creates a zero vector field. In other words, there's two magnetic energies opposing each other, right? Building a inner bubble. I like to call it as my magnetic inner bubble. And wherever the Healy is the center point or the epicenter of that bubble. It's the center point. And the magnetic fields emanate spherically outward from that. Now, the way the coils are built, the way a coil is built is actually there's a bit of a cone shape that goes forward and back because of the way that field is built. And so it's not exactly a sphere. It's more of an oblong sphere going outward, forward, and outward, backward. But if you've got it on a necklace, guess what's still within the center of that field? You are, right? And so you're within that zero vector field where other magnetic frequencies and energies are being held away. And then Healy implants the very specific frequencies necessary to achieve the job of the program you're running within that center bubble. That's where it gets in place, and you're there. So you're getting just the pure system, the pure frequencies. I like to call it my little protective bubble. So
yeah. Excellent description. And yeah, there's additional information on the coil page on our website. And there is a flyer with additional information available for download in our back office. So
yeah. Okay. So
okay.
let's see. Go ahead.
Let's say, Ken, someone just mentioned you in one of the questions. Said, Ken just mentioned running frequencies throughout the day. I am confused as I think we are only to do 2 to 3 programs. Is the resonance different, and can you run more? So can you run more, vibrate more programs than you can run microcurrent programs?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because when we're dealing with the microcurrent, I want you to understand this goes back decades. Microcurrent has been proven to increase ATP production within the cell itself by hundreds of percent. Literally, it's been proven to increase protein synthesis as well as amino acid transport. Proven physically increase these phenomenons, these modalities within the cell. Okay, so when you're running the microcurrent, now let's just say that I was to put some battery chargers on your body and rev you up. It's like, what kind of analogy do I use? You drink a big old pot of coffee and you have this rush of energy, right? That's a bit overwhelming, and you can't sustain that. So you've got to give the body breaks between that. So that's why it said, 3 to 4 microcurrent programs per day. And each one of these programs have an amount of time, a maximum duration. because they're designed to perform within that maximum duration timeline. So 3 to 4 of the microcurrent programs per day. That's where this limit comes in. Now, in the blue dot, there's not necessarily a limit in numbers of programs, but remember what I said by running programs throughout the day, these are small increments. There are recommendations into how long to run this vibrate mode within the resonance. If we're looking at conditions that are what's called systemic means the entire system wide, the whole body. We're looking at conditions that are relative to the whole body. We can run a program a bit longer because it's a bigger mass, right? But you're just doing it fewer times in the day. If you're looking at things that are acute or specific, now we're targeting like one system of the body, not the whole body, but just one system, maybe the brain, maybe the liver, maybe the skin. So those you can run, you want to run those much shorter amounts of time because we're very specific in terms of what we're addressing in the body. But those very short periods of time, you can run them more through the day, more often. So we run them 4 or 5 times per day, but in 30-second or 1-minute intervals. Okay. So the blue dot has different ways in which it applies the frequencies. It's working with your information field, not the mitochondria of the cell, right? Different. So you can run more. Okay. Now that's running more of the blue dot, right? Vibrate mode. Again, be your own measuring stick. Take some notes, folks. Keep a journal, right? It's really hard to, I mean, I ask people to give me an accounting of what they had when I'm working with them on the nutrition side. What did you eat last week? I'm like, I don't know what I had last night. So keeping a journal helps us to understand and remember and have accountability for what's going on. And then you can give a more fair assessment. Okay.
All right.
Did somebody answer the question about what's the percentage mean in resonance? I don't think.
Well, I mean, you had answered it earlier as part of that answer, but I don't think it was specifically answered in the chat. Let's see. Quick here. Again, thank you, Michael, for taking care of most of these. But of course, there's many that we do want to, as Ken likes to put it, unpack a little bit more. So
yes.
Okay.
So the percentages, again, when you reveal an assessment, a scan, the percentages just give you a priority. And if something is up in the 90 percentile, it means that this is something to really pay attention to. It's really influencing your life, right? If something is in the 50 percentile, the highest is in the 50 percentile, it's having a lower impact on your life. Still a priority system. So anyway, if your results are up in the 90s, you're going to have a 97 and 95 and 94 and 93 and 92. Again, that's the priority system. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The higher they are in numbers, the more influence on your life. Sometimes people are working on things already, right? You're working on things in your life. You know, you're trying to change stuff. You're doing great work within your life as change. And so some of the results are going to be lower. Maybe it's only in the 50 percentile, but still necessary, still needed. Okay. All right.
Okay, so we had a question. Oh, sorry, that was already answered. Let me go back. So there was a question earlier about can I leave the Healy plugged in and charging all the time? So never unplug it from the charger. And not necessarily a good thing for the battery if it's never fully depleting and then charging back up. So I don't know if there's any reason why you would ever a need to have it being charged all the time. So
yeah, that's gonna limit you from being able to use the pink dot at all. You'll never be able to use the pink dot.
True. Yeah.
Okay. whether it be with the coil or the wristband electrodes, you won't be able to use the pink dot. So you could only use it in the resonance or blue dot. So, I mean, a battery needs to be utilized. It has the design of a battery is to store and discharge energy, store and discharge. So you store it, you discharge it, you store it, you discharge it. And the range in which you do that. So in other words, you discharge it to 0 and then you store it or rebuild it back up to 100%. That's a full range. If you only discharge it to 30% and then charge it back up, eventually it's going to create a habit. No different than us. We create a habit based on behavior. So the battery will wind up having a habit, and it's not going to be it's not going to be efficient anymore at some of the lower ranges. Again, it's your call. You're just limiting potentially the use, the full range use of your Healy.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
I like that. Thank goodness for all the old phones from my kids. I know I have like 4 old phones that I use, and my oldest I think is an iPhone 6. But remember, the minimum operating system for an iOS is 11.0. So if you have an old device that only will run up to software 10.5, then you're going to be limited in being able to operate the software that Healy's created. Okay, so that's just a minimum operating system.
So I've got a good question here. Says, whenever I switch from the blue dot to the pink dot to run individual programs, so I'm guessing they ran a scan, find out which ones came up, and they want to run those in the pink dot app. They say my Healy disconnects immediately. How could I avoid this without powering on my Healy again and again? So if you are switching from the Analyze app to from the blue app to the pink app, you're gonna need to close your blue app completely before you open up the new one. So it sounds like that's a normal process, and that you would need to, once you're done using the blue app, close it and then connect to your Healy to the pink app. Can anything I may have missed there? I mean, you can't have both open and connected at the same time. So
yeah, there's I mean, I'm an engineer, so I know different kinds of hacks and things, but I'm not going to talk about it because I guarantee you it requires a certain level of understanding, and it's complicated. So it's best to segregate and just keep one device on one smart device on one Healy on one app, right? Before you try to switch over to the other. Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Got a next question here. Please explain what the constantly changing percent progress numbers mean. So again, I'm assuming this one is related to the pink dot app running a program. And then after a period of time, the progress indicator shows up underneath the circle, and then, ranges from a negative 100 to a positive 100 potential range. But yeah, as you see those frequencies go around, you might see one at negative 76%, and then it goes through a cycle. That next frequency comes back around, and then the next time it might be at negative 44%. And then the next time it comes around, it might be at positive 22%. And then again, it comes around again, could be at positive 80%. And then you might not see it come around again because it's already done. There's nothing else for that frequency to be done. You're resonating with that particular frequency, and it's been kicked out of the cycle. Anything to add to that, Ken?
Yeah, remember, this is real-time interface. It's real-time interface. And so what's happening in the background here, it's measuring the resonance of your body. Okay. And the resonance, in other words, how your body is vibrating, or the cell structures, systems, organs, tissues, whatever the purpose of the program is. The Healy is measuring your body's resonance with that one frequency. Remember what I said earlier? We talked about this. Every 8 to 10 seconds, a new frequency pops up. It pops up, and then that's where the real-time analysis, your body's looked at, find out what the resonance is of that frequency and that gives you a score. It gives you a progress from negative 99% to positive 99%. That's the range in which it gives you a score. Now, can it change? Can the same frequency resonate at one progress on one cycle and a different on the next cycle? Yes. Can it go down or up? Yes. It can go up or down. We're trying to raise the frequency of the body, right? I should say the energy of the body for that one frequency, the resonance. And if you are in a state of frustration, you can negate the progress the program's trying to achieve. Okay. So again, it's important that you are part of the equation of healing. And that progress report, again, it can shift and change. Don't expect the program to do in 55 minutes what you've done in 55 years. Okay. I'm just saying sometimes it takes a couple of applications.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we only have a couple minutes left here, Ken. So hard to believe.
I get people asking me about Faraday bags, Faraday filters, and things like that. So think about these filtration systems, or these are ways. A Faraday system is a way of holding off or filtering out, and it's like, okay, well, we're working with electrical units transmitting energy, and if we're using something that is going to influence that, either whether it be negate it or amplify it, we're changing the way the algorithm of the program is going to interface with your body and with Healy. Okay, so if you're using certain modalities, say that you're really sensitive to frequencies or to energies, and you have whatever you're using in terms of guards, whether it be crystals or electrical components, magnetics, whatever, and you inject the Healy into this equation, it's going to have an effect on your external devices and how they interact and interface with your body. It's going to. Why? Because what I just said earlier, Healy is trying to resonate with your body in conjunction with whatever else you're wearing or ingesting or interacting with. So all of that external stuff, or even internal stuff, is being evaluated by Healy. And Healy is looking at you from the information field. Please understand, this is not a subjective perception. This is an objective perception. Okay, it's not taking into account what you think you need. It's taking into account what the information field knows you need. Okay, and it's going to work at a different level than your own personality or personal reality or perception. I think that what gets in the way, I'm sorry to take up a little time on this, but I really want this to hit home for some. What gets in the way often is us. It's our own mind. There is a blueprint in the information field that is pure. Okay. This is not tainted. And it requires consciousness to take that perfect blueprint and then solidify it into matter. The consciousness of you. And when you see in the material world as your body is gone through a very distinct filter of who you are and became a physical representation. Now, it's in most cases is not the same as the perfect, pure blueprint in the information field. Why? Because it goes through personality. It goes through perception. It goes through judgment and creates a different reality. If we continue to use certain things to filter that purity, we may be missing the mark. Does that make sense? I mean, I want to offer the opportunity for us just to let go for a while. There's a system called hedonic calendaring. If you haven't heard of that before, it's mentioned very well in a book called Stealing Fire, written by Jamie Wheel and Stephen Kotlier. Stealing fire is a demonstration of how we find our flow state. And there are as many things that get in the way of that are built on our own judgment. And I'm talking to everything. I mean, from meditation to diet. The hedonic calendar is a time when you get rid of all of that and allow the body to reset, including Healy. I do it every week. I shut down my Healy and do not use it for a minimum of 24 hours. So I can find out what works. You don't know what you're missing until you get rid of it. And then you'll find out real quick. I know I took a bunch of time on that. I'm sorry, folks. We can do a little lightning round of question answering real quick. Like,
I just wanted to, I put a reminder in the chat here that if you haven't yet, please subscribe to our YouTube page at HealyAmericas.com. That's where we're posting all the recordings for these particular Tuesday night calls, and then also our What's Up Wednesday calls and our Healy for Beginners and Beyond calls. And you can get to it at HealyAmericas.com. And then also we do Tech Tip Tuesday every week. We don't do Healy for Beginners and Beyond every week, but we are having one this Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. So join us. You can get to that call at experiencehealy.world. I'll put that into the chat as well. So again, 3 p.m. Eastern time this Thursday. Freddie and I will be doing Healy for Beginners and Beyond. And Ken, if you're available, I'd like to have you as well. And we'll post the agenda for that call here most likely tomorrow. And also another reminder, if you want to save the chat from today's call, just open up the chat window, and then next to the smiley face at the bottom, those 3 dots, click those, and then you'll see an option to save chat, and that will save the entire chat directly onto your computer, so you can reference any of the questions or links or anything like that that we posted on today's call. So
awesome. I love it. All right. So I just put in there the book I mentioned, Stealing Fire. Great book, by the way. And so save that chat, and hopefully you can review that if you wish. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So thanks y'all for being here. Really appreciate you. Your time is very valuable to you as well as to me. So thanks for sharing it with me, or with us. All right. So